Am I the a-hole for telling my sister we were strangers after she eloped and broke all contact with us years ago? Apologies in advance if this post seems disorganized. My head is still reeling from all of this. 9 years ago, I was 18 then, my older sister eloped with her then boyfriend. Our parents, we're an immigrant family, were vehemently opposed to her relationship. I remember personally being okay with it because it wasn't my place to judge. She eloped with her boyfriend and cut off all contact with us. My parents were beside themselves. I tried reaching out to her back then on different platforms, but I was blocked. I even reached out to her best friends and asked them if they could at least get me in touch with her. They said they didn't know where she lived now, but that she'd told them she was happy. She had also left her workplace. Eventually, my parents and I came to an unspoken agreement to pretend she had never been here, and I blocked her everywhere too. I remember being especially careful to call my parents regularly while I was in college because I was worried about their state of mind. We're now at a place where I can't remember the last time she crossed our minds. Yesterday, my sister knocked on my apartment door. She cried and hugged me when she saw me. I hugged her back initially too because I wasn't really thinking at the time. She just kept going on about how much I had changed and how much she'd missed me all these years. Eventually, I kind of remembered everything and asked her why she was here and who had given her my address. She said she had sworn to them that she wouldn't tell. I asked her why she hadn't called first, since whoever gave her my address probably gave her my phone number too. She said she just wanted to see me in person. I told her we'd gotten over her, so why was she here? She said her issue had only been with our parents, not me. I reminded her that she had blocked me too when she left. She told me she was sorry she'd hurt me, but she had wanted a fresh start. She then told me I was an uncle to a nephew and a niece. They weren't there at the time because they were at their father's place. She and her husband had recently divorced. She acted surprised that I didn't know about them and said she'd told someone to let our parents know they existed. Maybe it was hearing about the divorce that frustrated me even more because, if we were going to have gone through all of this pain, at least she could have found lasting happiness. I told her she was a stranger to me now. She asked if we could have lunch together because she wanted to know all about what I'd been up to. I told her it was best if we continued having no contact. She hadn't acted like an older sister when I needed her to, and we were no longer family. We'd already mourned her, and now we were strangers. She was tearful. She gave me her address and phone number and then left. Last night, I spoke to my girlfriend about what had happened. She said my sister was still my sister and that I shouldn't have just turned her away. I told her she didn't know what we'd gone through in the days after my sister had eloped, but I still wanted to know. Am I the a-hole? Update 1. Hi. Thanks a lot to everyone for the support on my post, and to those who reached out to offer support. I've been emotionally drained ever since meeting my sister. Like I said, I had made my peace, after a lot of hurt and futile hope, with the idea that I would never see her again. She had my number, and I hadn't blocked her new one. I'd thought about it and even received advice to do so, but I just didn't. It slipped my mind. She texted me on Tuesday asking how I was doing and whether we could meet on Wednesday because she really wanted me to meet her kids. I was really conflicted. I didn't want to oblige her, but I decided to say yes, if only to meet them. I went to her apartment yesterday and met my niece and nephew. My niece had recently turned 9, and my nephew is 6. They're great kids, and I really enjoyed meeting them. I remember feeling a certain way when my sister introduced me. She told them that, just as my nephew is my niece's younger brother, I'm her younger brother. We talked for a while and started sharing stories from when we were growing up. I hadn't, and still haven't, said that everything is okay between us, but our conversation flowed smoothly. I learned that after she eloped and got married, she moved in with her husband in a town a few hours away from us. Around 2019, they moved to the city we're currently in. According to her, she had no idea that I had later moved here for work after college. I told her about what I'd been up to over the years, college, my job, my girlfriend, and everything else. After that, the kids were in their room, and my sister brought up the idea of all of us doing something together over the weekend. I told her we weren't okay and that she couldn't expect me to forget everything. She said she was sorry and that her moving away had nothing to do with me, and that she had missed me. I was angry that she had no idea about the pain I'd gone through, both personally and while having to be the emotional support for my parents after she disappeared. I told her I didn't believe that she would have been perfectly fine with never seeing me again if she hadn't gotten divorced. I said I could have died, and she probably wouldn't have broken a sweat after hearing about it because she had been so blissed out with her domestic life. I know it was ugly. I've never said anything like that before, but in that moment, I wanted her to feel even a fraction of the hurt she'd caused me. She broke down crying and said I could hate her if I wanted to, but not forever. She said there had to be a limit. The moment I saw her crying, I regretted what I'd said. I sat down next to her and asked what had happened that led to her divorce. She told me that the first few years of their marriage had gone well. She said she'd even sent word through a mutual friend when the kids were born, which either the mutual friend failed to pass along or my sister misunderstood because we never heard about it. She said that when COVID happened, her marriage became a living hell. It brought out a side of her ex-husband she had never seen before. He became abusive, developed disdain for their son, secretly recorded every conversation they had, and convinced her she was crazy and a terrible wife and mother. She stayed because of the kids until she finally reached her breaking point. A very kind neighbor, whom she'd become close friends with, gave her a lot of support and even helped her find a job. During all of this, she admitted that she blamed our parents for her staying in the marriage so long because she felt they had abandoned her. I reminded her that they had literally pleaded with her not to run off with him. I was there. I was 18, not 8. She said they told her she was dead to them if she left with him, so she blamed them for not feeling like she could come back when she wanted to leave him. I told her that was insane logic. She didn't want to discuss our parents anymore and asked me not to tell them about her. I told her that her relationship with them was her own, and I wouldn't interfere. I also asked again who had given her my address. She begged me not to ask because they hadn't given it to her easily. She said she'd had to swear secrecy, cry, and convince them that I'd want to see my older sister. So I dropped it. We had tea and snacks afterward. She asked me again if I wanted to do something over the weekend since she had the kids, or maybe the following weekend when it would just be the two of us. I told her I didn't know. She said that was okay. She was tearful again when I was leaving. We hugged, and I hugged the kids goodbye too. My mind has been a mess ever since. I lashed out, and I regret what I said, but then I remember how I felt all those years ago, and I get angry all over again. It feels so strange knowing she's only 20 minutes away from me now and that we could see each other whenever we wanted. I told my girlfriend everything that happened. She said she supports me no matter what but thinks I should consider the weekend plans with a clear head. This ended up being a long post, and I apologize. I've been trying to sort through my own thoughts, and writing them down seems to help. Thanks again for all the advice. Update 2. Hi. I've been getting a lot of moral support and advice from many people here, which I really appreciate. A few people had asked how things have been going. So, I told my sister that I couldn't spend Thanksgiving weekend with her, partly because I still wasn't in the right headspace for something like that, and also because I had to go to my parents' house that weekend. Normally, when I go there, I end up staying the entire weekend. She said okay and asked me not to tell them that she was back in my life. I agreed because it wasn't my place, and besides, my parents had come to terms with her absence a long time ago. It was a bit surreal, honestly, to be with my parents while carrying this secret. We were spending the weekend together like a complete family while my sister was at her apartment, and knowing that felt strange. After I got back, she asked if I wanted to hang out the following weekend, the one that had just passed. Her kids would be with their dad, so it would just be the two of us. I know what a lot of commenters had said, and I appreciate all of their advice. But I had tried to clear my head, and my girlfriend simply told me to do whatever would make me happy. I thought about it, and I honestly decided that spending time with my sister on Saturday would make me happier than not seeing her. It wasn't about her. It was for myself. So, I went to her apartment on Saturday. She asked me how our parents were doing, and I told her they were doing well now. Since she was the one who brought them up, I asked if she wanted to reconnect with them. I said it might be good for both her and, maybe, for them too. But she said no and repeated that line about them saying she was dead to them. It was clearly something said in the heat of the moment, but I didn't push the issue again. We went to the mall, bought some clothes, then had dinner at her place and watched a movie. Overall, it was a lighthearted day, and our conversation flowed naturally. It obviously wasn't like it used to be, partly because I still keep thinking about how I felt when she left us, about how I had to support our parents emotionally afterward, and partly because she has changed. She's much more anxious and nervous now than I remember. But overall, it was a nice day together. I did bring up that I'd still like to know who gave her my address. At this point, I no longer regretted that they had given it to her, but I still felt they shouldn't have shared my information. She became defensive and begged me not to ask. She said they hadn't given it to her easily, that she had pleaded, cried, and promised she would accept it if I rejected her, and that she had sworn to keep their identities secret. So, once again, I dropped it. It's whatever, I guess. I left, and we agreed we'd see each other again soon. I received a lot of comments saying I was stupid, that I had no self-respect, and that I was being used. I just want people to understand that this isn't some abstract concept to me like it might be for others. This is my sister. She's the same sister I grew up with, who helped me with school projects and supported me in so many ways while we were growing up. And yes, she's also the same sister who ghosted us for 9 years. I'm still angry about that. But like I said, I'm only doing what I feel is right for myself, not because I feel guilty, and honestly, so far I'm only out the cost of a subway fare to visit her and a few hours spent at the mall. I'm okay with that. If, after all of this, she disappears again someday for whatever reason, I've already made my peace with that possibility. And if that happens, then may we all get what we deserve. Thank you again for all the help. Update 3. A few people had asked how things were going. I'd taken a bit of a break because it's all just complicated, and I felt that asking for other people's input was hurting more than helping. My sister, her kids, and I had been meeting up whenever we could find the time, and it had been genuinely enriching. I enjoyed spending time with them despite a lot of the feedback saying I was being taken advantage of. I went to my parents' house for Christmas and New Year's. During that period, there were a couple of gatherings with the entire extended family, uncles, aunts, and cousins. It was during those gatherings that I really began to understand the extent to which my sister's actions had affected our family. All the other families were complete, with siblings, spouses, and children together. Ours was torn apart. Even after all these years, the entire extended family still seemed to walk on eggshells at times. None of my cousins had to listen to their mother cry over an estranged daughter while trying to study for college exams and midterms. I also realized I had been lying by omission to my parents about something huge, the whereabouts of the daughter they still loved and worried about. My relationship with my parents is the one that has endured through everything. So, a couple of weeks ago, I told my sister exactly that. I said it wasn't fair to ask me to keep a secret like this. I was calm and respectful. I didn't lash out or try to make her feel guilty for everything we'd been through. She was the one who became upset. She said our parents had declared her dead to them, that she had been living through hell while they had abandoned her. I reminded her that they had done everything they could to stop her from ending up in that situation. She was the one who chose to leave because she believed she knew better and because she chose her boyfriend over the entire family, cutting off all contact with us. She still refused to reconnect with our parents. I finally told her that if she wasn't willing to have a relationship with them, then we couldn't keep talking either. I wasn't willing to risk a stable relationship for one that had already proven itself to be unreliable. That may have crossed a line because she immediately burst into tears. We didn't tell my niece and nephew that I wouldn't be seeing them for a while. I don't know what she's going to tell them, and honestly, it's painful for me too. Since then, my sister hasn't really said anything over text. She's just continued sending pictures and videos, like she already had been, of the kids or of whatever she made for dinner. I've reacted with a heart to them but haven't replied. I genuinely hope we eventually find a resolution and that the kids get the chance to have a relationship with both their uncle and their grandparents. Final update. Hi. I thought I'd give one final update. I had planned on posting a much more positive one a few weeks ago, but things didn't really end up in a good place. In May, I did end up seeing my sister and her kids again because it was my nephew's birthday. My sister and I had been communicating through text, and she'd been sending videos, but we hadn't seen each other in person. We celebrated his birthday. I gave him his present, we ate cake, wore our party hats, and everything seemed normal. When we were alone, she asked me how I'd been doing. When I told her I'd seen our parents the week before and that I visit them regularly, she said that was good and asked how they were doing. I told her that since they didn't know she was back in my life, she really shouldn't be asking about them either. She became really upset, maybe for the first time since we had reconnected, and said I had no right to withhold information about them. I was genuinely struck by the hypocrisy. She said they were the ones who had pronounced her dead. She hadn't pronounced them dead. We argued, and I stood my ground. I told her that if she wanted to see them again and wanted her children to know their grandparents, then she needed to tell them herself. She could work through her issues with them at her own pace, but she had to at least let them know she was alive. She repeated that same line again about them saying she was dead to them. I told her that if she was going to take that statement literally instead of recognizing it as an emotional outburst, then she couldn't keep asking me for updates about them. The dead don't do that. We changed the subject because the kids were playing nearby. A couple of weeks later, she called and asked me to have our parents call her. I explained that they couldn't find out I'd known about her for so long because it would completely shatter them. Thankfully, she agreed. She also said she'd tell the kids to say they had only met me a few days earlier. I called my parents and told them that my sister had come to see me a few days before, that she was divorced, and that she had 2 children. My mom immediately started crying over the phone and had trouble breathing. They called my sister, and although she didn't tell them where she lived, they arranged to meet the following day. I went with them. I had actually planned on updating everyone then because I truly thought my sister and my parents were going to reconcile. At first, it looked like they would. My sister collapsed into my mother's arms. My parents were incredibly gentle with her, and they instantly fell in love with her children. I took the kids to KFC for a little while so my parents and sister could have some private time together. When we came back, the atmosphere had completely changed. My sister was arguing with them, saying that every single day of abuse she had endured was their fault because they had orphaned her. My parents told her they had always known he wasn't worthy of her and had tried to stop her from leaving with him, but she wouldn't listen. Not long afterward, she wanted to leave. Since then, my sister and my parents have remained in contact. They've visited her apartment, and she's gone to their house. However, whenever she visits, she mostly stays in her room while my parents spend time with the kids. We all spent last weekend together at my parents' house, and things are still pretty much the same. This will be my last time posting here about all of this. Thank you to everyone who helped me navigate such a difficult situation.